Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition commentary, and specifically today's video is me talking about the 5 channels, the 5 YouTube channels that have commentators where the commentary is the most useful to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. These are the channels that are the most useful to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition players, okay? And so basically, now, every single one of these, I'm sorry, one last caveat. Today we're going to talk about commentators whose commentary is the most useful to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and Dungeon players, with YouTubers who have over 100,000 views. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that I will tell you right now, there are commentators who are more useful to D&D 5e Dungeon Masters and Dungeon players, less than 100, but this is a category of, let's look at everybody who has over 100,000 subs and look at how useful they are to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and Dungeon players, okay? So it's very, and so, on this channel, words matter, right? So, and it always frustrates me when people roll up on the channel like, you're wrong, Scott. But I invite it because I think words matter, and that means we have to get the words correct, and we have to, and there can be debate. There can absolutely be debate, right? And actually, as long as the debate's on the topic and not on me as a person, I'm more than happy to debate subjects, which is always a delight. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so and by the way, I have a little bit of reference material. So right below, in the doobly-doo below, you'll find a link to actually the 10 most useful, right? But today we're going to cover 5. But you will find all the channels I list below. You can jump to them using the link below, which is a playlist. Okay, all right. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a reminder here. XP Jenny Colville, WAS Dudes. All right, so the most useful channel for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Masters and players for a YouTube commentator who has over 100,000 subs is easily, by far and away, the most useful, is XP3. He has a fantastic channel. He is just an amazing commentator. And by the way, I think he's a Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition commentator. Yeah, I understand all of these will be up for debate on whether I think that all 5 of these are Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition commentators. But I also understand people would say, oh no, they're talking about any tabletop role-playing game. And the reality is, most of them, actually, XP3 talks about D&D 5e very directly, and many of these do. They talk about them very, very directly. So if 51% of your content is directly aimed at 5th edition, or if you're just like a fantasy tabletop role-playing game, but then you constantly literally list only the classes, are you really not talking about them? So there's a big debate there, right? But XP3, he is incredibly useful to D&D Dungeon Masters and players, and here's why. No one on YouTube does such a great job of talking about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition at a very specific level, and can really get into feats, and has a strong mechanical understanding of the game, has a beautiful, brilliant, shining love for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and at the same time, and this is what he does that really puts him far and above everybody else, mixes in effective, legitimate humor, right? And so his channel has a winsomeness and a joy that I wish I could bring to my channel, right? But now I'm fairly certain at this point that it's his whole job, like that his XP3 channel. He has well over 100,000 subs, and I'm pretty sure he's full time, which is that's great if you can get there, right? And so XP3 is he's the best of us. He's incredibly good at what he does, and really untouchable by almost anybody else. Because he can really talk about the game. His love for the game is clear, and he mixes in this humor, and it looks just effortless, right? All right, next, Ginny D. All right, I'm going to say it flat out. The reason why I rate her so high, is if you look at the top 10 on my list, only one is female. Every single one is the same thing, right? It's the same type of person with the same two attributes, except Jenny D, right? And so the fact that, like, we need diversity in this hobby, she's bringing diversity, and she's doing it very, very effectively, right? She is really interesting. So one, she has that same winsome, fun spirit that XP3 has, and in fact, I think she does it a little better than XP3. But she doesn't have his love of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and she certainly doesn't have his knowledge, right? But she does the best with what she can, and she has a great channel that is very, very enjoyable to watch, right? And again, when I watch these other commentators because I want to get better at what I do, right? And the thing that just frustrates me to no end is just I can't get this lovable, winsome, joyful spirit that that XP3 has, that Jenny D has, and it is hard to do that on the internet because people will come for you. And I'm sure both of them have had issues with different commenters, but they just handle it so effortlessly, and so they do such a great job, and they make it look so effortless. It's really, really nice. Next is Matthew Colville. That guy, I think he gets half the stuff he says wrong, but he is brilliant, and he has really made a name for himself. He makes products that people love, and I also think he's a great. He does an amazing job of bridging the old and the new, bridging the 1974 vibe with the 2021 vibe, and that is not easy. Okay. Next is Was D, and Was D was a map. He was focused on Dungeons & Dragons maps. And now he does a lot of product reviews. He puts out very well edited, very professional looking, very clean content, does some very fair reviews. Really, really, everything on his channel is just wonderfully delightful and comfortable, right? Just a fantastic commentator. Really dig his channel and what he's doing, right? Last is Dungeon Dudes, and at this point I have to say people are getting on the list just because the list is being made. I actually don't like the Dungeon Dudes a lot. They have a very, in my opinion, very uninspired, uncreative approach that is like this feat over this feat, and it's very mechanical, and honestly it's so mechanical and so dry that I think at this point you're getting on the list people whose love of Dungeons & Dragons is not as high as their love for complexity, right? Like, and I think they see the game in the most unimaginative way, and I think they kind of squeeze D&D to be the smallest, but they do have over 100,000 subs. They have people listening, and they have great coverage, right? So whatever is brand new in Dungeons & Dragons, you're going to hear about it on their channel. They're gonna give you what you need to know what's happening in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and I like that. So they're out of the top 5, they're clearly my least favorite, and these were in order of best to worst. So that is my 5 Dungeons & Dragons useful commentators. That was my list of YouTube creators with over 100,000 subs who are most useful in their commentary to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Dungeon Masters, and players. Did I leave anybody off? Now, actually, I'm going to do a second part of this, and so you'll get your 6 through 10. What is your opinion of the 5 I talked about today? Would you have put them in a different order? And do you think there's anybody who should be in the top 5 that I didn't list? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.